not a movie theater, we don't require it, but it's appreciated.
Does this not work?
It's for, if you want to wonder, we can use this or that. I just have that and need that one.
Oh.
I've muted them both because if we're using both. Or I've muted this one because if we're using both, it'll be feedback.
Okay.
So
Yeah, I could just use that one. That's fine.
So it's muted right now. If you hit the button at the bottom, it'll unmute. So green means good. That's muted.
Okay. All right, well, it looks like we're ready to start. One more here. Well, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. We do have lunch in the back, which you're welcome to, and I see people are taking advantage of that. My name is Mark Weiner. I'm the Community Planning and Building Director. I'm joined by our permit technician, Sullivan, our building official, Dick Bauer, our building inspector, Jermel Laurie, and our environmental compliance manager, Agnes Top. And the reason we've invited you here today is we want to educate you, the architects, builders, and the community on our permit process. The primary focus of this workshop, I think I'm supposed to use this, is on the building safety division. We have several new forms and processes and handouts that we want to make you aware of so we can guide you through the process as you submit your projects. We're also going to touch a little bit on some of the planning requirements in the process, but the main focus is the building safety division. So we will be stopping throughout the presentation to answer questions. There's going to be a lot of information, and we won't wait until the end. We'll be allowing you to ask questions throughout the process. So what is the department doing to improve our service? I understand that building in Carmel can be challenging. We have a lot of unique regulations and some fairly rigorous submittal requirements. But we really want to, guide you through the process and make it as painless as possible and help it go efficiently and quickly for you and efficient for us as well. And, it's really our goal in terms of communication to be accessible and responsive. We kind of pride ourselves in being a small community and a small department where if somebody comes in and they want to speak to a planner or they want to speak to the building official, they can usually get that person within a day or two, and they get to consistently work with the person and be able to track their project. And kind of the opposite of Monterey County from what I've heard about how they operate. So that really is our goal. And we also want to provide all the information that you need to make the process clear and to have clear standards. I really want to thank Dick Bauer. He's been with us for almost a year, and he has developed numerous forms and handouts that really prescribe the permitting process, what we want to see. He's even come up with cut sheets that you could use on your plans for construction details. So we really made some real strides in terms of providing information. We did a similar thing on the planning end about a year ago, and I think those handouts are helpful. and now building is caught up and maybe even surpassed planning in terms of the information they're providing. And then transparency, it's our goal to make the process transparent. We've made some changes to our process. For example, for planning review, when notices go out, we now have a link to a website page on there where neighbors can go on and view the pending project plans without having to come into the office and ask to see the plans. It's actually saved a lot of staff time, and we've had less staff interactions at the counter where we've had to explain projects and to the neighbors because of that. We're also working on some online capabilities for the permitting process. So for example, we're going to talk about this later today, we're going to have an online portal where contractors or even the community can go on and look at the status of a building permit, look at the status of a plan check, and see where it's at throughout the process. And we're also working on electronic plan submittals as well, so we'll discuss that a little bit later. And then I do want you to know that we do work very hard to streamline projects. Typically if a planning design study application comes in, we do get on the Planning Commission agenda within 2 months is about average, which I think is good given that the Planning Commission meets once a month. Building permit applications for plan checks, those are usually reviewed within 1 to 2 weeks, which is very quick. And that's just really due to the diligence of staff working hard to try to get these projects turned around quickly. And then finally, we do strive for a quality work product. We want to make sure that in all of our plan reviews that we identify everything according to the code, that we have clear correspondence with the applicants, clear staff reports, and that we do our review at a high level. So I'm just going to briefly go over some of the planning requirements, which is really the first step in most projects, especially if you're doing like a new home or a new addition. So we do have a design study process. This is a flow chart, and it's a little hard to see, but on the left, those are projects that are exempt from requiring design study. It used to be that almost any minor change that you made to your residence or your property would require a planning permit, a design study permit. There's a 10-day appeal period, a public notice. Well, we've created a path that allows applicants to just come in, they submit a scope of work. We do ask for details, but say it's something minor like just replacing a few windows or replacing a patio, you don't have to go through that design study process. A permit's not even required, but we do document it through this notice of authorized work process.
Is that in the handout yet? It's not in the handout.
So it may not be in the handouts, but it's on the internet. And so all the forms you're going to see today are on the website. The city's actually in the process of getting a new website. It's going to be rolled out in about a month. We also have it burned onto the CD here, and we'll make that available at the front counter. And then we also have them at the front counter as well, all the handouts. But this outlines the process. So the one on the left is the notice of authorized work. The one in the middle is the track 1 design study. And for most of the architects and designers here, you're probably familiar with that. Those are for minor projects, cosmetic changes to buildings, additions less than 10% of the square footage of the house, in which staff can approve those projects. They don't have to go through the public hearing process. There is a public noticing process, however, and it's for the more minor ones. And then we have the track 2, and that's outlined on the right. And once again, I apologize, this is a little hard to see. But as most of you probably know that have been through the process, it's typically 2 hearings with the Planning Commission. It's a public hearing process, there's public noticing, and it takes a few months to get through that review process.
And it still takes a few months on even on the track 1, right?
It can't, depends on the nature of the project and that whether there's corrections. This is one of the handouts we have, and this is on that CD and at the front counter. It just provides a list of the projects that are exempt from design study, exterior modifications. So I think it's important that you pick this up when you have a chance, and because I think this path is followed quite often for very minor projects. And also just one thing to make the design community aware of, the City Council did recently adopt a story pole policy. The city has been requiring story poles for years, however it was never codified or there was no policy, it was somewhat of an unwritten policy. Well, now we've developed standards, clear standards, for the story pole requirements, and it's all outlined in this policy that we've drafted. It does require a certification of the highest ridge line for the Track 2 projects, surveyor certification, but overall it's very similar to the existing process that we had in place for years. And then I did just want to point out the fact that we are currently working on a zoning code design guideline update. The Planning Commission initiated this a few months ago. It's going to go back in April. It's probably going to be about a year-long process. We've received a lot of feedback and input from the community. There's a lot of different areas that certain architects have raised and just members of the community they'd like to see addressed. So I would just be on the lookout for that. We encourage you to be involved in the process because it's an opportunity to guide the regulations that are used in reviewing these projects. And with that, I do want to turn it over to our, is it you, Sullivan? Yes, me. To our building official. He's going to go over the building safety division requirements, and that really is the bulk of the presentation. So, but actually, before I turn it over, since I promised that I'd give time for questions, are there any questions about what I just went over with regard to planning?
You said there's a new website rolling out, like a portal where we can log in and submit plans.
That's correct, and we will cover that during this presentation, but that's actually going to be in the next few weeks. And right now, for the online submittal, it's in the beta phase, but our building official, Dick Bauer, is encouraging contractors and architects to submit plans and to apply to be in the part of the beta test for that program. Yes, Adam?
Can you just briefly touch on the preliminary site assessment process and the assignment of planners?
That's correct. So per the code, as part of the Track 2 design study process, and once again, Track 2s are for new homes and large additions in the residential district, there's a requirement for a site assessment, and I'm sure many of you have been through it. As part of the site assessment, you have to submit a topographic survey to the city depicting neighboring buildings and the trees on the site, and then planning staff and forestry goes out to the site, and we report on the trees and we report on any unique conditions of the site. We typically try to line up the site assessment. The planner that did the site assessment would also work on the design study, but that's not always the case. And the reason this was codified years ago is because the city felt it was important that applicants are made aware of some of the site constraints and opportunities prior to doing the design. I know sometimes designers will go ahead and prepare the design, and then the site assessment's kind of an afterthought, but the real intent is that it come before the design. And typically, I think the most important information you can glean from that has to do with the trees, knowing which trees you can potentially remove or build around, because those can often dictate the footprint of the building. Any other questions? Okay, well, I will turn it over to Dick Bauer, our building official.
Thanks, Mark. Thank you, everybody, for being here. This is a great audience. Lots of people, several more than we had for the first one. So everybody must have found out we were serving a free lunch, right? So I'm Dick Bauer. I am the building official since the end of last June, and it's been a pleasure to be here in Carmel. A little bit on my background. Been doing either as a building official or fire marshal or fire chief. I've been in this business for over 34 years. In every state on the west coast of America, including Alaska, except for Oregon. And so a lot of people say I've been kind of moving my way south. I grew up in Alaska, and now I'm down here in California. So I go to where it's warmer, and the days generally are longer all year round. So it's kind of nice to be in a different climate for a while. We thought about putting this together, and we thought, it's a good idea to bring folks in, kind of let them know what we're doing. I know we've done a lot of changes since I've been here on the building side of things, trying to, build capacity, trying to figure out ways to make things not only so that we're able to take care of all of our concerns and document things, but also to try to make it easier for contractors to be able to work with the department and for us to have a really good positive relationship with the folks that are doing business in the construction industry here in Carmel. So we think we've done quite a bit, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. The slide up here on the wall, and let me kind of preface this by saying I don't envy you guys having to design in today's world, or for that matter, to build in today's world. Years and years ago, I was a contractor too. I've also seen how these codes, I mean, we adopt updated codes every 3 years. It can be very difficult to keep up with that. It's difficult even for people in our profession to keep up with it all. I counted it up one time, and this was several years ago, and as everybody knows, those code books have not gotten any skinnier. There was over 1 million pages of text that we had to be able to enforce in the international codes, basically the same thing as the California codes. With all the reference standards, it goes far higher than that. So everybody can understand why this is a pretty complicated business, and why, you know, we need to be able to, one, make sure that the plans demonstrate compliance with the code. But of course, there's going to be things that, you know, I have to rely on architects and engineers to provide in those plans so that they can be built by the contractors with the minimum amount of delays and questions. And so that our record copies of everything really demonstrate that, you know, we made a good faith effort to be sure that the construction was in accordance with the code in effect at the time it was built. And to be able to document all that for any potential future legal proceedings. And I'd like to say that never happens, but unfortunately it does, and in some cases with some frequency. So we're going to talk today about some of the things that we're doing to try to make it easier for everybody and to make sure that we're all on the same page with things. So let's kind of start out and look at the process that we've been working on trying to put together. Again, this is a pretty difficult slide to read, but it is included in the handouts and in the disc that you'll get. But basically, a few of the things that we're looking at doing is on the far left-hand side, you can see there it says pre-application conferences. That's something that typically hasn't really been done formally around here, but we are offering that now as a formal part of the process. The idea behind the pre-app conference is that you can come in and sit down with me for up to an hour and show me your plans, talk about what you're going to, you know, be submitting, what's the intent of your project, what do you want to do? And I can give you information that you can use when you go back to do your design to make sure that, okay, these are the critical factors that need to be taken care of, whether it's to comply with a state code or some local code, and I'm the guy that's going to be sitting back there staring at your plans, doing the review, things that I need to have you show me so that I can get your plans done as quickly and completely as possible. Now, I've heard a rumor out there that I give really, really extensive, long plan review letters. I do. And one of the reasons is that a lot of the times I'm looking at things, again, as the building official, I need to be able to certify that those plans are in general conformance. One of the major things that I've seen in submissions is citing expired code editions. So far, the earliest, or I should say the most out-of-date code reference that I've seen was the 1997 Uniform Building Code on a set of plans. It hasn't been published in, well, since 2000 at least, so almost 2 decades. So I want to make sure that everybody that's out there designing and working with us, that you guys are providing me with the good information that I need, accurate information. Having code citations from previous sections of the code does no good, especially when a contractor's out there who may or may not even have a building code on site, but they're looking up a particular reference on those plans and they can't find it. The table does no longer exist. Any number of reasons why it's difficult to find those. So a lot of those things that I give you back in that initial review letter are just cleaning up housekeeping matters to make sure that, you know, our plans are accurate and the ones that are going to our records and are going to sit around here for the life of the building and probably longer are as accurate as we can possibly make it. It's raising the bar a bit on what we want from submittals, but I hope that we're raising the bar on how we're going to provide you guys service in the long run, and it all plays together. The more complete the plans, the more accurate they are when they come into my desk, The less time I have to spend dealing with corrections, less that conversations we have to have back and forth to take care of those, and I can get your plans approved and your permit issued that much faster. So really, we want to be a part of your project team. We want to help you to succeed in what you're doing. And in order for us to do that as effectively as we can, we need you to help us out by providing us with some good, accurate plans, covering the bases on it, making sure those citations are correct, making sure that you've done good detailing on them, just show the things that we need to know for compliance, general conformance with the codes. So that pre-application conference gives you a way to be able to sit down and find out, okay, here's the things that might be tricky on this or the things that I need to make sure I address in those applications. The next column there talks about the various kinds of permits that we have. We have one that's called a permit by appointment. And that's one where you can come in and you can sit down for about a half an hour for minor projects. I did one earlier this morning. It wasn't a permit by appointment, but it sure could have been. And it was somebody was replacing a couple of posts and a beam underneath an existing roof system. It was pretty simple. And that was the kind of thing that, I could sit down in a half an hour and have turned that permit around and that person would have walked out with a permit. It wouldn't have had to go into our loop of review and the 2 to 3 weeks that it takes to go through all of that. We could have just done it. So that's one way to do it, is the permit by appointment. You can call and make an appointment to come in and sit down with Sullivan and I, and when you walk out, provided that you've got good plans, well detailed with all the information we need, all the forms have been filled out, you walk out with a permit. Anybody not like that theory? That's what I figured. Another one is the over-the-counter permits, and we've been doing those for quite a while for single trade permits. You want to come in and remodel, put in new piping in a bathroom, or repipe a house to get rid of some lead, or rewire a house to get rid of knob and tube wiring. Those are the kind of permits that you could come in and do over the counter. Come in and talk to water heaters, another great example. Window chains out. You can come in and talk to Sullivan, and for the most part, he can get that taken care of while you're there. If it's got a little bit of complexity to it, he'll bring it back and I'll take a look at it while I'm back there just to make sure that we can go ahead and do it over the counter. But that's another way that we can try to expedite things for you. When you got just a small project, a little bit of work to do, we're going to try to help you to get that done as quickly as possible so you can move on. You'll see there that if we go, there's also the standard permit process where you submit. We have some performance measures that we try to work with for new permit applications that come in. I try to get my eyes on those within 2 weeks and get a letter back to you with the RFI, or request for information. Well, this is what I need you to provide me back so that I can get back into your plans and be able to hopefully approve them. So we try again, like I said, for a new project when it first comes in, we try to get to those things within 2 weeks. In some cases lately, I've actually gotten caught up to the point where I've been able to get my eyes on permits within a day or two of the time they were applied for. I think that's pretty good level of service. We also have for resubmittals. So if you're responding to an RFI that I've sent you, and when that comes back in, my performance goal on that is to get my eyes on it within a week and get a letter back to you within a week. Either a letter requesting additional information based on what you've provided, or, hey, you can get your permit and we get approval on it. So, as we go through this, I do a very thorough initial review. My goal is that when you submit your RFI responses to me, that I can sit down and go through there, take a look at those responses, see that they've all been taken care of on the plans, and be able to be done with it, and you get your permit. So again, if you provide me the information that I need to be able to take care of it, I'm going to do as quickly as I possibly can for you, just because we want to keep things going. The top two, you get a permit, you get an approvable permit application, you get your permit, you go to work, and we do inspections on it. Down below on the thing, you see, as we just talked about, I have to do a plan review on them. The back and forth goes on. Once your application's approvable, you get it approved, and you go to work. So that's how it works in theory. There's going to be some little changes that we're going to talk about coming up that deal with electronic permitting that I think you guys, a lot of you who do, are computer literate and in some cases do some plans on, on the screen, we're going to be able to really work with you to try to improve the process even more. Get rid of some of the multiple trips you have to make to City Hall to bring in revisions on paper, to take care of even being able to submit plans electronically. So all that back and forth part between the red and the orange boxes at the bottom takes place online. We do that electronically, and then you come in once we have approvable documents with the copies ready to go. We stamp them up, get them approved, and now you're ready to go to work. So hopefully that'll save some time and effort on your part, and probably some trees too. Carmel's all about trees, and if we can cut down the number of giant rolls of plans that we have to reprint, we can also do something to try to save the environment. So that's kind of the process that we're working on, and it is kind of a work in progress, because one of the things I like to do is to try to continually improve things as we can. So I encourage you, if you've got suggestions on how we can try to improve our process, how we can be even more reasonable or responsive to what your needs are, let me know those things so that we can consider them and find out, is there a way that we can try to work that into our process again, to try to improve it, to make it more responsive to the needs of the community. Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to Sullivan. We tried to do this so that we had subject matter experts. My expertise is in just introducing things, apparently. But Sullivan is our permit technician, and he knows the permit system inside and out. So I'm going to turn this over to him and let him tell you about our permit processing. Thanks.
All right, so before we go on, we covered a lot of information about the permit process, so just any questions about how you can submit, what you need to submit. That's what we're going to get into.
The being able to do it electronically, going backwards, is that something that's happening now, you said, or in the future?
We're currently working with iWorks and with a new, iWorks is our permitting software, and with a company for a new website. Once both of those things are complete, then we're going to be beta testing this. That should be upcoming in the next month, 2 months, is what we're looking at. So it's actively happening now. So I want to talk to everybody about what you need for permit submittal. Everyone knows that when you come in, you come across, we do a light plan check, and we hand it back to Dick. As you come across, we're really looking to kind of batten down the hatches and get everything you need on first submittal. We've kind of accepted a policy where if your permit, your construction documents are not complete, we'll hand them back to you, or I'll hand them back to you and say, these aren't complete, here's what you need, get this addressed before you can submit for your first time. That will expedite your process, make sure you have less correction notes, and get you out the door faster. So I want to talk about our SOG 1704. So our SOGs stand for our Standard Operating Guidance Documents. This is a set of documents that Dick has published while he's been here. They're really our handouts, our forms, our informational guidance documents that let you know what we're looking for and how you can provide it to us. The 1704 comes in 2 parts. We have a kind of a what you need brief checklist, and both of these are available in the back. So we'll provide you with a brief checklist that goes over what you need to submit. It's very general plan requirements. Do you have a title block? Do you show each page correctly? Do you have a site plan? Do you tell us clearly and concisely what you are doing and completely what you are doing? The other portion of that is our complete application matrix. This is more for the designers and architects when you are sitting down designing your plans. You can go over it and see what exactly is needed for your project. As you can see, I think we have an example. Excuse me, I don't have an example, but the documents are available in the back. We have permit types as one column and information that is needed as in another column. It really gives you the in-depth detail of what we're looking for and how you can provide it to us. It tells you what exactly you need for what type of plans, whether you're an addition, a new home, a new deck, just remodeling the interior or whatnot. So it really covers everything that you'll need and everything that you need to give us. And we encourage everybody when they are designing their plans to have that next to them so you can kind of go through the boxes and tick it off and say, yes, I have all this. My permit is roughly probably 85% complete if you give it, can check off on all those boxes. The other 15% comes down to making sure you have correct code citations and information provided to us. what we're really looking for in your complete set of construction documents. The easiest way to think about it is your proposed versus existing. If you are doing something and you're changing something and you don't show it to us, we're going to have a really hard time reviewing your plans. So make sure you get every single item to us that you're proposing to do. And that includes your mechanical, electrical, and plumbing. These three documents permit types are included in the residential permit. However, for commercial projects, those are handled as separate permits. So you can submit one set of construction documents, but you'll need a separate permit for each item in a construction project. In addition, for your plumbing, when you go through it, we have two agencies that we work with, the Monterey Peninsula Water Management District and the Carmel Area Wastewater District. For new constructions, new sewer lateral connections, or any change to your water count, such as if you're upgrading toilets, water fixtures, sinks, you'll have to be reviewed by these two departments. And that is really for the benefit of the property owner. It allows them to have their credit counts accurately adjusted. And if anyone's talked with Malpaso Water District recently, you know how expensive those can be. So we really do encourage, and it is required for any new plumbing permit where any change in water credit count is needed, that you go and get your items reviewed by them. And then one of the items, yes sir?
Is that before we submit to you?
That is actually concurrently. So you'll submit to us first and we'll give you a plan set back. They require that we stamp and sign on them before they'll accept them for review. So both those reviews will be done concurrently. Then we'll go on with deferred submittals. And these items listed here: special inspections, your C&D plan, your structural and civil calcs, your BMP sheet, and your BMP implementation tracking form. Those are all items that we will cover that need to be part of your construction documents, such as deferred submittals for electrical, mechanical, and plumbing. They're not always required to be submitted with your plan set as long as you fill out this deferred submittal agreement and agree to submit them at a later date. So we'll keep on you for those, but we'll at least review your architectural plans and be able to get those back to you if you don't have your contractor selected or for some other reason. Your statement of special inspections is another SOG that Dick has published. We have reviewed the Monterey County list of approved special inspection agencies and made our own form for it. It makes it easier for you to get those into us and say, this is how we're going to do it. Another form of, yes sir.
All right, one of the elements previously I've talked to everybody about is that on the application forms, because the designer or architect makes the initial submittal, we end up signing that we're not going to, allow any hazardous materials, that we're going to hold the city harmless for the construction. Things that we really can't do. Have you all changed that in your documents, or are those still? I understand the process because you all need to have from the city attorney a representation from the owner that you're agreeing to those things, but it should be someone other than the designer, because the designer's not doing that construction.
Are you referring to like the asbestos abatement reports and hazardous material reports?
Not the reports,
but the verifications.
But the actual hazmat and holding the city harmless, for work or compliance with, or protection of trees. Those are all things the contractor actually does.
Yeah. So if you as the designer are not sure about what's going to happen specifically with those, you can make a note on your deferred submittal agreement stating that when you work with a contractor and you've come to him, you'll discuss that with him. So you can say, as long as you fill out one of these deferred submittal agreements that are in the back and available to you on the disc and at the front, that it's going to be deferred, and we'll have to make sure that we get some information on that before we can issue you your permit. But at the time of submittal, if you say, yes, we'll get it to you just a little bit later, then we can work on that together. So that covers kind of your full construction documents, and we'll go over those as part of this. We wanted to let you know what's changed. We've made quite a few changes to our process, such as the permits by appointment that Dick has covered, and we'll go more into in depth later. These are the kind of the brief overview. So owner signatures required. Previously, for those designers and architects who have done planning submittals, you have all been required to do this. Now on building submittals, if the process has not gone through a planning review, especially then we don't have any form of owner verification. If you can say, hey, why'd you let this guy do some work on my house? I didn't want that. The city's held liable. So we require that all of the building permit submittals that come across the counter do have owner's signature. And this it doesn't have to be a wet signature, as we do realize that a number of homeowners are out-of-town homeowners or second homeowners, so that can be faxed or emailed, digitally signed. Fire sprinkler retrofit calculations. That's, yes, sir. That is required on both planning and building, the application plan. So fire sprinkler retrofit calculations, again, another SOG. We've established something that says, or the code says, that if you replaced, edited, or changed 50% of your walls in the last 5 years, you're required to install fire sprinklers. And so we have handed you a form that allows you to calculate that easily, and we'll be able to keep a record of that and update that as the project goes on. We've all had the experience where an owner is not quite sure what they want to do and maybe changes something halfway through, and so this will be kind of a living part of the document to make sure that we can get your fire sprinklers in to maintain the safety if you change 50%, or you may get to avoid that. In addition, we've come up with a new square foot calculation table. This is an item that is important to the city because we currently charge off the valuation given to us by the designer, the contractor, the architect, whomever submits the application. So we've done some research and come up with a square foot calculation of what it looks like for your typical 5B R3 construction and the other construction types. We've taken the Building Standards Magazine table and kind of added our multiplier based on some research that we have done, so we can more fact check these new permits that come across. We've had some experiences with maybe a little bit of misleading information, and we really want to just be able to fact check that. We may come up with a different process when our fee schedule is updated, but this is what we're looking at now. So if you're within about 15%, either plus or minus, on our square foot valuation table, you're in the green. If you're exceeding that, either above or below, we can say, hey, what's going on? And then if you are going to build for that much, you can provide some documentation to us stating that. Yes, sir.
What do you guys average square foot price?
For 5B R3, I think it's $406.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
So you have that information included in the,
It's on the disc.
it's on the disc. Good.
Is that including or excluding finishes?
That includes everything. That includes finishes, material, contractor time, design time, everything that goes into that.
It's everything but the cost of the land and the cost of the permits.
Just interior remodel.
So this is for new square foot additions that we're checking on, not interior remodels.
What if interior remodel existing?
We have not come up with one for that yet, but this is strictly just for our new additions.
So an owner says, hey, I'm gonna do sweat equity, all the labor's gonna be me. That's not, then that means that does not have to be included as a cost in the valuation?
Well, if the owner chooses to take on and do the labor themselves, then they're not going to be paying themselves. That cost won't be included. So this really,
It would reduce the valuation.
yeah. And so we recognize that when you submit an owner builder declaration. But for all other cases where there is a contractor selected, that's really where we're looking at this. And like I said, it's more just a fact check to see if we're looking in the right ballpark. If for some reason it's either extremely high or extremely low, then we can kind of get an idea of why it's not, and we'll communicate back and forth with you.
If I can just clarify one thing on that. For owner builder, we're talking about someone, just a general public person who owns the building and wants to be able to work on it. If you're a contractor and you're in some sort of a group who's, we bought this building to do it, remodel it and flip it or something like that, and so if you're part owner of it, you do need to include the cost of the time of doing that. So if you're a contractor working on something, that permit valuation is based on the value of your work. I just want to make that really clear because we have seen several projects that came in that the contractor and the designer were all part of an ownership cadre that were working on them. And we're trying to say that, we're all just going to do sweat equity on this, so our stuff shouldn't count. No, it does count as part of the valuation of doing the construction.
So one of the bids came at 350 per square foot. Will you accept this price for as a valuation base instead of 4 or 6, as you said?
If you provide us, as Sullivan said, if you're within 10–15% of what we find from the table, you're good to go. We're not going to nickel and dime you that much on it. But if you're outside of that range, and if you go higher, that's up to you. I mean, good on you for being honest about the cost of the project and how really nice it's going to be. But if you figure your project, you're going to get it done for less than the average square foot because you're using less expensive materials, or because you've had a drop shipped framing package from someplace that you saved an incredible amount of money on or something, if you provide us with quotes and bids that show and justify and confirm that this is the cost of the project, we're going to go ahead and take your word on that. But we do need to have something that says this is why we're going to be able to do it for so much less. We're really trying to create a level playing field for everybody. And we're also trying to make sure that because the cost of city services isn't going down any, and we're a very slim department with myself and Jermel and Sullivan in there, we need to make sure that we're able to, one, recoup 100% of the cost of our services, which is what the city council has told us they want to do. And two, we need to be able to look at the total cost of the services, including how do we upgrade our information technology things so that we're able to offer things like online permitting and reviews and those types of things. So while, I hate to be the guy that's up here going, yeah, the city's always trying to get in my pocket, but in fact, to a certain extent, when you come in and apply for a building permit, we do want to make sure that everybody's paying reasonable fees for this so that we're able to provide and continue to improve on our services.
Any other questions regarding this item? All right, great. Last thing we've got on here is the requirement for multiple revisions. Again, as we all had the experience, we've had an owner who may change their mind about a few things once they see it started to be built. Now we all wish this may not happen, but it's a reality. So we've gotten to the point, that's a better question. So we've got to the point where we have a new standard for multiple revisions. So when you come in and you submit a revision, we'll take in your first 2 revisions with no changes. Once you get to the point where you're getting 3, 4, 5 revisions, we're requiring that you modify your plan set. And this is for the purpose of record keeping and clarity for both the inspector in the field, for the records in our office, and for the records in your office. So once you hit that 3 revision mark, you'll have to go back to your previous revisions, include them as a part of your approved plans. No clouding, no highlighting, just they're included. From that point on, your 3rd revision will be clouded and highlighted and indicated this is what's changing off of our previously approved plan and previously approved revisions. So that'll keep it so we have one complete set of plans with all modified revisions on it. Requires a little bit more work on the designer or architect's time to make sure that those are clarified for us, but that is our new standard. Once you get up to 3, 4, 5 revisions, it just becomes too much of a mess to keep the plan straight between your offices, our offices, and the field.
So this new set of plans will have some clouds, right? For the latest.
It will have clouds for your latest revision. Any other revisions that were previously approved will be included as part of your base plan, not highlighted, not clouded, not called out or anything.
For the initial submittals, getting back to the other department reviews, have you come up with a new number of plan sets you're requiring?
So what happens is we usually require 3. If your plan is extensive that requires public works review, so if it has stormwater systems, if it has a new driveway repaving, if you're proposing tree removal, you need a 4th set for public works review. And providing that 4th set to us allows us to expedite plan review so that it is reviewed by public works, planning, building, and then most likely these exterior agencies. So really a plan set goes everywhere and then will come back to us. So 4 plan sets on those larger projects. All right, so we're gonna just go over real quick. These are all forms that are included in your documents in the CD and available at the front. This is just a quick checklist of our submittal requirements. This is what we'll be looking at the front when you come in with a new set of plans. I'll just be able to go through, do you have this, do you have this, do you have this, point it out to me, And as long as you have it and you can show it, then we can take it over the counter and we'll go back to Dick and he'll say, yes, this is your correct framing plan. Yes, this all matches up. Yes, this is your correct electrical. Or no, you did miss this on your mechanical. So as long as you can show that you have it, great. If not, you can defer it, but we'll need to make sure that those items are addressed in some way before you can submit. And this, speaking of, here's our deferred submittal agreement. This is you stating that you do not have these items in your plan currently when you submit, but you intend to submit before you can start construction on those items. And so whether it may be your mechanical, electrical, plumbing, fire sprinklers, you can check it all off on this and submit it to us and give us an intended submittal date. And this is you saying, yes, we will submit these. Here's our intended submittal date. We'll keep you on track and we'll make sure that everything's submitted before you can begin work on these items. And this is the preview of our special inspections, tests, and observations form. What's not showing is the backup information, which includes all the Monterey County listed approved agencies, Carmel listed approved agencies, and how you can get that information to us. And then we have our C&D plan. For anything that requires recycling or demo, you're going to have to meet a minimum of 65% recycling requirements. This first page of the plan tells us how you're going to do it. You can either self-haul, which majority of people do, or you can contract with Green Waste, the city's waste hauler, and they'll have a debris box and they'll be able to work with you on that. Either way, this will basically stating this is how we're going to remove it. At the end of your project, you'll need to provide us with receipts and tickets showing how you did meet that 65% recycling requirement.
So now that Merck's open, then the receipts from there will count for the 65%?
Yes, sir. So especially for Last Chance, make sure you get receipts from them. They don't give out receipts normally. You'll have to make sure to ask.
Electrical, plumbing, HVAC, deferred submittals, is it required that it be done by a licensed subcontractor or a licensed contractor?
Do you mean the actual implementation of it or the agreement to the deferred?
The drawings, the line drawings, the isometrics, and so on and so forth.
For residential construction, there's no requirement that those plans be prepared by an engineer. You can go ahead and as a contractor, electricians can do electrical designs, mechanical contractors can do mechanical designs, a general contractor can design all of those systems. But you need to provide me with really good documentation. There's a lot of forms out there that are required by the Energy Code, all those state forms. Most people, I think, probably go to a mechanical. In fact, I think I see Monterey, pardon? Yeah. They're probably 99% of the mechanical forms and everything that I see come from MEG. So, but yeah, you can design it, but you're going to have to, provide really good complete plans, provide me cut sheets on the equipment. If you're doing plumbing work, you're putting in gas systems, I need to see your gas line schematics, the pipe sizes, the lengths, calculations to make sure that they're going to provide enough fuel for all the appliances that you've got. And that you've included all the appliances. I saw some plans the other day where they had put in actually two gas fireplaces which weren't included in their gas calculations and their piping diagram. So you can do that, but make sure that they're very good and complete. I'll go ahead and review them. If I get to the point where I don't think you know what you're doing, then we'll have a different discussion. And you may have to have somebody with expertise to prepare those for you. But I'm good with, for residential construction, we can deal with it that way. If you're doing commercial work, we're going to want those plans to be prepared by an actual mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, so that we know that we've got really good code compliant drawings.
All right, here's the one sheet plan for our for our fire sprinkler retrofit calculation. It gives you the formula where you can use the total length of the walls, amount changed, again, provided to you, just so you know what you're looking at when you get into edits for fire sprinklers.
One quick question. If there is obvious that the percentage is less than 50, let's say 20%, do you still need us to provide calculations?
You still need to provide the calculations because we keep track of this, because if the owner decides to do changes to their property in 2 years, then it's the last 5 years total for fire sprinklers. So if it's 20, 20, 20, then you hit the fire sprinkler trigger. And then we have our BMP sheets, which should be included in the back of all of the plans pretty much every time. Include your BMPs and your BMP implementation tracking form. This tells us how you intend to maintain those, what you intend to do, that you don't intend to let your BMPs, you're going to put them there, and then they fall into disrepair through the length of the project. So make sure you maintain those. And this tells us how you're going to do it. Those will be inspected weekly during the stormwater season, and you'll get more information on that later.
Do we need to provide it even if it's interior remodel?
No. Do you want to start on this one? All right.
So, as I said earlier, you know, the codes seem to grow all the time, and you end up with a new code that comes along, and, you know, everything has to be in a book. And so those are what come to me, and I get to look at your plans and try to make sure that they're in general conformance, and that's what I say in my plan review letter, because I can't really apply 1 million and some pages to every set of plans, or you'd never get a job done. But what we've tried to do is we've tried to make it easier and more predictable to make it through the process. So standard operating guidance. Over the years, I found there's certain things that, whether you're working in Alaska or California, the same questions come up all the time. And so what we've tried to do is take the things that are repeat customer questions and put them down so that everybody knows consistently this is the answer to the question. We call them standard operating guidance because they are guidance documents. The code provides for alternate materials and methods. It's a performance-based code these days, so if you can provide something and if you design a system that provides equal to or better performance than the prescriptive requirements of the code, we can look at that. So it's a guidance document rather than a set hard and stone policy. But we've got a number of these guidance documents that address a whole bunch of different things that are on the disk and that you can pick up here in hard copy, that'll provide you with not only information, but in some cases, as Mark talked about earlier, it provides you with some standard details that you could actually, if you wanted, cut and put into your plans. They're public document stuff, so there's no copyright on the stuff that I put together. So if you're going along and you want to use something that you see in an SOG that applies in your project, fine, cut it out and paste it into your plans. Use it. We've got one document that we put together on stormwater systems because, believe it or not, even though we're in California, we have a lot of issues with stormwater running from one property to the next. And since I've been here, I've probably seen at least 3 projects that had those kinds of issues come up, and a couple of them have resulted in attorneys having a heyday. And I would prefer to not have to deal with that. So we've put together one of these SOGs on stormwater systems that provides you with 3 different paths to be able to do things. One, you can do it as a landscaping treatment, and there's some sideboards on this with soil types and the amount of impervious surface, which are all addressed in the document. But if you do one of the landscaping treatments using swales and rain gardens and those kinds of things in this document, it tells you how to do that. And if you do that and can show it on the plans when you come in, we're not going to have to worry about permits or anything. It's just part of your landscaping. Number 2 is the prescriptive path. And so we sat down and went, you know, some people are going to want to be able to put infiltration pits in. They're doing a small project. They want to be able to take care of it. Maybe you got a site that you can put in a couple of these systems to take care of all of your impervious surface area. It tells you how to do that. And again, it actually has drawings of how it is. We've had people come in and paste those drawings into their plans and say, this is what I'm going to do for my stormwater system. Gives you a sample of a site plan and everything else. Perfect. So you can deal with that one. The other one's the engineered path. So if you've got a significantly sized project, site constraints, bad soil conditions, things that, you know, your project can't fit into either the landscaping treatment or the prescriptive path, you're going to have a civil engineer design the system and stamp and sign it. That way, we know it's been designed. It shouldn't have any water migration problems. And if it does, we've got an engineer to stand there with us and be able to explain what may have gone wrong with the project and how to correct it. One other one that we have that I kind of like is the one on decks. We try to make it as easy as possible for people to be able to build decks. And so what we've done is we've stolen Santa Cruz County's deck design details, massaged them around a little bit to make them fit the current edition of the code. And what we have here in Carmel, you can take that deck design thing, it has span tables, it has drawings and sectional drawings and details. It has on the last page an example of a deck plan that actually has spaces on it where you can fill in the blanks and be able to submit a deck plan just by referencing the tables, plugging in the numbers, and then turning that in. So there's a lot of good information in there, again, trying to make it as easy as possible for people to comply with these complex code requirements. The complete application checklists, again, those are for you to use as well as for us to use. I like it when you use them because that way when the plans come in, I got good, complete sets of plans so I can sit down and get them done and get them turned around. So please do refer to those. Plan review checklists, also on there. I use checklists that have been designed by the International Code Council when I'm going through projects to make sure that I'm not missing something in the codes. Use those checklists. I don't look at everything. You have to kind of go, well, my project, this doesn't apply to it. So you don't have to worry about that one. But use it as a guide to know, oh, these are the kinds of things that Dick's going to be looking for back in his little dungeon back there to make sure that this is all going to work out. Stormwater, BMPs, drainage requirements, I just mentioned that one. Encroachments, that's another one, and traffic control plans. If you're doing anything that's going to go out and either be a permanent encroachment in the public right-of-way, that's going to require a permanent encroachment permit. Stormwater systems, if you're going to try to take your overflow and put it out onto the street, that's going to require an encroachment permit. That requires the Public Works Department to review and approve that. If you're doing something where you might be putting a re-roof project or rebuilding an overhang in a commercial area, you want to put up pedestrian protection because you want to be able to work on it. Now you're going to close the sidewalk or you're going to put up some scaffolding or something to build overhead protection. Those require a temporary encroachment permit. So again, the Public Works Department and the Police Department are going to need to sign off on that. And finally, traffic control plans. If you're going to do some work that's going to impede traffic flow on any of the public roads, you need to have a traffic control plan. That plan needs to also be approved by the Public Works and Police Department. So if you have those kinds of activities built into your plans, you're going to need to get a couple of extra permits here just to make sure that everything is on the up and up on it. Forms and processes to expedite your permit. We've covered a lot of these things. Again, the pre-application conference helps you to have a better informed plans when you turn them in. Concurrent review allows you to go through the planning process and work on your design study, getting that taken care of, but submitting plans for your building permit so that I can do my review at the same time. You have to sign a form for that, acknowledging that when I do my building permit review, if it comes that the planning department and the zoning code requirements require you to change those plans, it's going to cost you more in order to do the re-review on it. But what it does is it allows you to be able to kind of get a jump on things. In a lot of cases, the things in the design studies really don't deal with structural details of a building. And so you can go ahead, I can start dealing with the code requirements from the building code, the structural details, those kinds of things, and we can have that back and forth while it's going through the design study. So hopefully that way it tries to expedite how you get your permit at the end. It's going to save you time either way, even if you have to modify the plans a little bit based on the design study, because most of the time, again, that doesn't really affect the building structure as much as it affects appearance and those kinds of things. So if you got a good set of plans that you're turning in for the design study, there's a way you can consider, maybe you want to do concurrent review to get the structural stuff under my eyes at the same time. So that'll help to expedite things a bit. Phased construction. A lot of times we have people, I want to get my foundation in, I got the structural done on this, but I'm still working out the architectural details on it, those kinds of things, or a demolition permit, I want to demolish this while I'm going through the building plan review. We can do what we call phased construction. We've got a form you fill out that says, okay, I want a foundation only permit at this point, and I'm going to go ahead and change the foundation so that, if there's anything that goes planning or the building review later on, it requires modifications to the foundation once you put it in. The form says that, yeah, you recognize that that could happen, and you're going to make sure that the foundation fits the building design when it's finally completed. It just gives you a chance to move ahead on it. Same thing with the demo permits. It's a good way to try to help expedite things. I see it more on commercial work and larger things. Another good use of that phase construction, if you've got a plumbing permit in and you're working on pouring a slab and doing your flat work for your concrete, and there's going to be pipes underneath that, you can come in and we can do a phase construction for the underground part of your plumbing system so that you can get those pipes in the ground and start slinging the mud around as quickly as you can. Yeah.
Are there any changes, or how are you addressing currently the situation we run into a lot where it's like, okay, owner's going to live in this half of the house while we remodel this half, and then move to that side as we remodel the other half? We see that phase happen a lot.
I've been there and I've lived that one.
Yeah.
Yeah. As long as, planning and zoning, if there are no requirements that you have to meet for your planning and zoning stuff, as long as you have the kind of the acid test for that is, are you going to be able to provide heat? Are you going to be able to provide sanitation? Are you going to be able to provide adequate exiting from the side that someone's living in? And if you can show that you're able to do that, then we can certainly look at the opportunity to be able to have, doing work on one side and having someone still living in the dwelling on the other side. If somebody really wants to put up with the dust and the noise and the inconvenience, I understand that. I've done that myself. So there is no prohibition on that. We'll definitely consider it when you come in. We can talk about that. Any other questions?
Hey, Dick, I have a comment on the concurrent review. So just so the audience is clear, we won't issue the building permit until it gets the design study approval. We'll review the plans concurrently, but the building permit won't be issued until it's through design study.
Good point. And then finally, the work hours variance. It's a variance, and it needs to be, it's the exception rather than the rule. And what that allows you to do, we do have work hours in here in town. 8 to 6:30 is when you can do the work. That being said, the work hours are based on noise, Class B noise, as it states in the municipal code. So if you're doing a project where you're out jackhammering stuff and it's going to make up to 60 decibels at the property line or the right-of-way, then yeah, it needs to be done during the work hours. If you're going to go in and lay some tile in an interior bathroom, or you're doing some painting or trim work inside, you're not cutting outside, you're not creating noise that's over 60 decibels at the property line, then you can go ahead and do that work. You don't need my permission or anybody's permission to be able to do it. Be advised, though, that if you do start to create noise that is heard off the property, the police department may show up and they may give you a ticket for violating the noise ordinance. On the other hand, if you can do the work and do it fairly quietly, you're good to go. If you got some work that's going to cause noise or that can cause safety hazards or public inconvenience, let's say you want to put a HVAC unit on top of a building downtown. And in order to do that, you're going to have to close off part of the street to be able to have a crane go in and lift that unit up there. Yeah, you might want to do that earlier in the morning at 7 or so that you don't cause a problem with traffic. You can go ahead, and we have a form on there that you can request a variance to the work hours. Again, it's a one-time, and it needs to be for public safety reasons, public convenience, those kinds of things. Not because, well, the business owner wants us to do all the work at night so they're not inconvenienced. When you decide you're going to do work in a business or on a home, there's going to be inconvenience to it. And one of our goals is to minimize the inconvenience to the public and the community. So we want to make sure that these things, when we issue these variances, we issue them for specific dates, times, and activities, and not, we're going to give you a blanket variance to work at night throughout your project. I've had that request has been made in the past, so I can't make this stuff up. So that's how we deal with the work hours variances. Again, you know, it's a noise-related thing, so you use your best judgment on whether or not you're going to make the noise, and then you take your chances if the police show up. What's the next slide?
I'm going over the documents.
Okay. So yeah, going over real quick on the forms here. So here's a concurrent review agreement form. Again, that form is in your handouts. Phased request and phased permit request and waiver. This one doesn't have demolition on it, but you can write that in and put a box on it. We do want you to have an active permit or, you know, a project going through before you get your demolition, because we don't want to have a bunch of, you know, demolished structures and vacant lots sitting around in various states of disarray. So we want to know that you are in fact going to be doing a project on that site before you demolish the structures. Temporary variance from construction hours, again, there's the form for it. Some areas down at the bottom to describe both why you need it and what your mitigation things are going to be. So if there's something that I need to work at night or lift this HVAC thing up there, how am I going to mitigate that? Oh, well, I'm going to have traffic control. I'm going to do it at such and such a time. We're going to have it all ready to go. Those kinds of things. And then you're talking about, again, you know, what are the safety factors and those kinds of things that require you to do this work outside of construction hours. Permit process. We'll let Sullivan take that one.
Real quick, we've gone through a lot of information. It's a lot of us kind of talking at you. Want to get some feedback. Does anyone have any questions, comments, concerns about any of these changes or policies that we've talked about so far?
Just a clarification, if we're working with the owner on a stormwater plan that takes roof gutter water into areas on the ground where it will soak into, that does not require a civil engineer if we work that out on a single family residence?
If you're doing a system where it does not go into pipes, so you're using swales and rain gardens. Yes, you want to maybe?
You also, so you really want to take a look at that guidance document that we created. There are some specific requirements in terms of soils. If you have poor soils, you're going to have to get engineering involved. If you have good soils, relatively flat site, and not a large area that's getting drained to one spot, you should be able to do this without getting a permit. So take a look. There are some specific requirements in terms of square footages that can be taken to the landscape, the design of the landscape, and the soils. So in terms of when you're doing a small project like that, you can just go with the USDA soils map. So there's a website, USDA Web Soil Survey, that you can go to get that information. You can also, we will have a map in our guidance once we can get GIS interns to do it for us. But right now, so you can go two ways. If the USDA map shows it as being poor soils, but you've gone there, you've seen it, you know it's pretty good soils, you can get a site-specific soils report that, you know, will prove that your soils are good. But if not, you can also go with the USDA maps.
Is that soils map either on the disc or a reference, a link to it on the disc?
It's referenced in the guidance, in the SOG.
The SOGs.
1707. And once we have the map actually created for the City of Carmel, we'll have it added to the guidance itself. So it'll be all in there. Probably in the next month or so.
Yeah, there's a placeholder for it in the handout right now, and that will be coming soon. And there's a certain threshold that, you know,
And if not,
triggers.
you can always give me a call, and I can get you where
And there's a certain threshold of the size of a project that triggers a requirement for engineering. It's not for very
yes,
small.
very small projects can go without the permitting, and then the prescriptive option also applies to a limited site project, and then the engineering, you know, once you start doing a complete house, you're not gonna be able to go without a permit obviously for that, so.
General rule of thumb on these rainwater systems is when it comes out of the gutter or the downspout, if it goes into a pipe, it's subject to the plumbing code. We require permits for that. And again, we have a prescriptive path that we've designed. We worked it out using a really, really rainy place, and so everything is sized probably larger than an engineer in California might size things. But if you want to use the prescriptive path approach to it, you have everything you need to be able to do that. So again, if it comes out of that downspout and goes into a pipe, it requires a permit. If it comes out of that downspout, hits a splash block or some sort of a dissipator there and goes into a landscaping or rain gardens and swales, that kind of thing, no permits required for that. It just goes through as a landscaping project.
And yeah, I would add also to definitely take a look, because we've sort of changed the way, you know, what I've seen on a lot of plans is everybody wants to put all the runoff from all the downspouts into one pit and just be done with it. We're not going that route anymore. We want to disperse around the site as much as possible. We are going to do infiltration features. We're not just doing one, and we're not putting it in the furthest corner of the property either. Now there are setbacks from neighboring properties so that we're minimizing these conflicts between sites, between properties, between property owners. So we definitely take a look at that.
And that's a really good point that she brings up. If you're going to be using the prescriptive path on things, you do have to have 2 infiltration pits, and they need to be at least 6 feet off the property line for any side and rear yard setbacks, and they need to be at least 3 feet off of the public right-of-way. So that way, it trying to, as much as we can, minimize conflicts between neighbors.
All right, any other questions? Yes, sir.
In regards to the checklists, the smaller projects that we've seen homeowners that prefer to obtain permits on their own for their own peace of mind and to cut down on cost. Making things easier for the contractor doesn't always mean it's as easy for the homeowner. So I'm just wondering if you guys have in mind like smaller checklists that are specific to additions or projects smaller than that as a starting point, even if the documents required to get started.
So I don't think we've given any thought to that specifically. In the case of owner builder, they are filling the role of a general when they're coming for a permit. If they want to do their own plans, they still need to meet certain requirements. So while they may not be as educated, there's plenty of material out there where they can educate themselves. We do have to meet a minimum standard, and just because they are choosing to go owner builder to save some money, I don't believe we're going to allow much flexibility off of what we have. While currently some extremely small projects may not meet all of our, you may not have everything for one of these smaller projects. So that just may be the case, is that some items aren't relevant to your project. And so in that case, you don't have to go out of your way for that. But we really have to keep some sort of minimum standard there. Any other ones? All right, so we're going to talk about the kinds of permits that you can get. And we've touched on this briefly. Dick did when we were going over the overview of the permit process. We currently have 2 types that you can submit, and a new 3rd one up there, which is the permits by appointment. So we'll go over the counter permits first. As mentioned, these are usually small single trade permits, such as the replacement of a water heater, a rewiring, something that's specific to one trade, one location, one structure, and that is usually done by one contractor. Those we can handle over the counter. They need to provide us with a minimum of information so that we can at least see what they're doing. If they're replacing a water heater, is it going to be in kind, and what are they replacing it with, how many gallons? Are they redoing any of the piping? If they can say no, 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 and here's what we're replacing it with, great, we can get you out the door and get you started. We really want to get these minor projects kind of not caught up in our review process. The second type of permit that we have kind of introduced with this is our permits by appointment. And this is something where a contractor, designer, architect can contact the building department to schedule a meeting with Dick and I, and we'll sit down and review your projects. There is an additional fee to this. to accommodate the review. This is not your pre-application. This is, here's my project. I have everything. I'm ready. Let's get started. Our permits by appointment, we're going to have some very stringent requirements over what you need for this. So while we do want them to be, come in, get processed, get out, and get you out the door, we really are looking for 100% completion of your plans and completion of all required documents. We require those to be complete before you come into the meeting. Not, okay, here you go, you need to fill this out, you need to fill these 2 things out, and you need to do this. This is so that you're confident that you have everything, you've gone over the checklists, you've met the requirements, and you can say, yes, I'm confident that these plans are just ready to go. So we can take you in, we'll sit down with you, we'll review them together, we'll go over it, and we'll make sure you got everything you need. If it comes to a point where you are missing a portion of your plan, something is not quite correct, then we're going to end the meeting and say we can't issue a permit through permit by appointment. We'll take in your permit and it'll go in the queue as every other one, because we don't want this to be a stepping stone or a tiptoe in. We're going to say if you have everything, great. If you're lacking something, sorry, you got to go through the regular process. So while we encourage people to do this process, we also encourage them to take the time to review the documents that we've provided and be confident that they have everything before they come in. And when we do that, we're looking probably at about 30 minutes to an hour maximum per meeting. It has to be scheduled. These can't be walk-ins. And if there's any other agency approval, we'll be able to work on that, like specifically for water management. If you want to do your permit by appointment, you can come in and say, I want to do my permit by appointment. We'll get it worked out. We'll get you sent over to water management, assign you a number, a permit number, so that you can have that at the time of the meeting. So it has not been established yet, though we're looking probably at a few $100s.
So you would go to water prior to that permit meeting?
Yeah, so what this is going to be kind of a back and forth. So specifically for permits by appointment, what we'll do is you'll say, hey, I want to schedule a permit by appointment. I'm looking at these days, these times. We'll say, okay, do you have any plumbing requirements? If you do, if you're changing fixtures, changing your water count, then we'll say, bring in 1 set of plans. We'll stamp it for you. We'll assign you a number, and we'll just send you over to water management. That way, water management knows you've started the process with us. They can perform their review, and they'll issue the water permit to you so that you can have that when you come in for your permit by appointment.
Okay, so you have to have the water permit for that appointment?
Correct. Because we cannot issue a permit without the water district's approval, so we want to make sure you have that before you come to this. Any questions about the permit by appointment? Okay, and then we just go on to our regular standard plan review. Like Dick said, we do attempt for 2 weeks for first check. I think it's pretty good. And 1 week for any check on either revisions or corrections. Yes, sir.
One thing that's kind of a change that we've made that we've had a lot of folks that come in and they get a permit for, I'm going to build a house and a detached garage. What we're requiring now is each independent building gets its own permit. Now you can submit your garage plans along with the plans for the home, but we're going to issue a separate permit for the garage than for the building. So when you do your valuations on that, break that out, the garage, which will probably save you some money because it's quite a bit cheaper to build a garage than it is to build a home. But the reason we do this is because you may get done with the house and you want to move in, but the garage isn't done yet. And we can't give you a certificate of occupancy for any of it until the project's done. The question came up, what if you want to live on one side of the house while you're working on the other side? Another common thing, and not so much since I've been here in Carmel, but I've seen it everywhere else, I'm going to build a garage and live in the garage while I build the house. You know, there are ways to do that, but you can't get a certificate of occupancy for the garage if the house is still under construction. So we break those apart, and so if you plan on that from the get-go, when you come in and apply, bring in an application for the home and an application for the garage so that we can assign them separate numbers. Again, you can keep the plans, you know, for the garage in with the rest of the structural stuff. but we're gonna break those apart. So just know that that's on the horizon in front of you when you come in. If you plan for that, it really isn't any more of an imposition, and at the end of your project, it provides you with some other options as to how you can deal with your certificate of occupancy and to be able to get moved in.
That's an entirely separate set of drawings for a garage and the house.
No, you can have, because, you know, basically, I see the plans come in all the time, and it'll be, oh, we're gonna do the house and the garage, and here's the garage plans, and they're all commingled in with the plan set. I'm okay with that, all the information in there. It's really more of an administrative thing, and it's making sure that we have two separate permits so that we can deal with occupancy at different times. That's what it comes down to. If you got a house and, you know, you've got everything done, but the carpet's not laid and you haven't got the trim done because you got some fancy kind of moldings coming from somewhere, you know, you can come in, and it's something I don't know that we've got in here, but you can ask for a temporary certificate of occupancy. So you come in and you say, you know, my project's almost done. I need to get moved in. I've been living in an apartment. I got to sign a new lease. I got to move out by next week. Can I go and move into my house even though the landscaping's not all complete yet and I haven't hung my trim? Yeah, you can come in. If the planning department says, yeah, we're good with this, and if the public works department says, yeah, we're good with this, and if you don't have any fire and life safety kinds of things out there, so we're going to do a final inspection on the building to make sure that all of those things are taken care of. The planners will do their thing. Public Works and Environmental Services will do their thing on it. If everybody says, yeah, we can let somebody go ahead and move in here, you can then get a temporary certificate of occupancy. Like everything, there's a form to ask for that. You need to tell us, okay, this is how much time it's going to take me to finish this up. I'm going to have this done in a month. I'm going to have this done in 2 months. Then we can go ahead and allow that. You can get one extension on it. So if you're going to go ahead and you want to do your landscaping and you want to move in and the holdup is getting bushes moved in, then, and it rains and storms or for whatever reason you can't get it done, we'll give you an extension on that. But the intent of a TCO is not to move in and never get the work done. So at some point, and again, we ask you to tell us how long this is going to take you to get this done, and there'll be some negotiation going on there for a realistic time frame. But when that time frame's up, there is the potential that we could take away your certificate of occupancy and theoretically make you move out of the home.
Would we have to post bonds or anything now?
Not at this point. Not at this point. It's between us and on your signature. So we want you, you know, we want to help people out. We want to, you know, be able to be sensitive to the needs of moving into your house because you've been spending a bunch of money on that and on an apartment, but at the same time, we still need to assure that the work is all finally completed and the certificate of occupancy is issued.
All right. Any questions about COs? Okay. So we're going to move on to our e-permitting. We've been touching on this kind of as we've gone through our presentation, and the e-permitting is going to be something that we're beta testing. Probably beta testing period's probably going to last three months-ish before we open it up to general public use. The e-permitting is going to be through the iWorks system, which is the code and permit software that we use currently. I will show you an example of it briefly so you can take a look. And it's going to be just an online form. That'll be a link on our new website. You click on it, you fill out the information. It's going to ask for the exact same information as our building permit application would, or our planning application. So there will be 3 different forms and you can choose which one you're filling out for. So you'll fill out all the relevant information. Fields are required, so you have to be prepared when you are completing this. You need to know what you're looking for. And then there is an option to upload your plans. So plan upload, if you're doing your drawings in CAD and you PDF them, or if you have these supplemental documents, these your C&D plan, your BMPs, all of these forms that you can just scan, PDF, upload to the submittal, hit send, and it goes right off to us. We'll get an alert that you have submitted We'll go over the project and we'll say, yes, it looks like you have given us everything that you need for us to begin our review. We'll do the same thing. Basically, we'll sit at our desk and go over the checklist. I'll take a look and say, your plan, I can see everything reflected on your plan, and then we'll shoot it back to Dick and he'll do his review.
Plan check will be done just by PDFs?
Electronically, yes. So what'll happen is that it's going to come in. You can do your first submittal through this kind of form online, or the rest of our correspondence will be handled currently just through email. So if you're requesting forms back and forth, it can be through email, and we will set up a Dropbox link for any large plan files that do need to be gone back and forth regarding that. Yes, sir.
So this is really cool. I kind of geek out over the e-permitting thing. 10 years ago, we started doing this in Gig Harbor, Washington. That's actually been about 12, 13 years now. We started to do it, and it was when e-permitting was first coming on the screen, so to speak. And, there was a lot of people who went, oh, I don't know. And so we had a very small percentage of people that utilized it. The first project that I did electronically of any kind of importance was a 5-story hospital. And we did all of the plans, not only the structural and mechanical, but all of the review was done online. All the back and forth was done online. And it included not only the city's reviews, but it also included the state hospital board's reviews and everything too. It worked out really well. And so in talking with the person who took over for me up in Gig Harbor, they are now, when you fast forward, 95% of all their permits are done online electronically. So it really is something that people have found to be very, advantageous to do it. For those who aren't, maybe you don't use CAD, maybe you still hand draw things, you can still participate in this. You just have to PDF your plans and send them to us as a PDF. All of the forms and everything that we've talked about are, for the most part, a form fillable PDF. We're going to, when we get the website up, that we're going through a whole new website redesign right now. In fact, we're focusing in on, we're almost ready to go live in about a month with it. But you'll be able to go on that website and go, I'm going to build a new residential project. And click over here in a box on the right-hand side, and every form you need to submit for a new residential project is going to be right there for you to click on. It'll be a PDF. You can fill it out right there, save it as a PDF, and you can email all that information to us, upload it into iWork. And again, the back and forth that we're going to do then comes in after you input that first set of plans into iWork. There, at this point, is not a way to be able to continue to have the back and forth between me and you through iWork. So we're going to have a Dropbox set up, or something like a Dropbox. It'll be a Google product. But we're going to have that set up so all that back and forth on those big files, those big plan files, can take place easily between us. So at the end, we pull it all together. We go, you have plans that are ready and approvable. I'll put my comments in like sticky notes on your plans in the PDF, so you see, like I do now with, colored markers and pens and all that. It'll show up similarly as a PDF. You'll provide your revisions to it, and that back and forth will go through this Dropbox until we find a way to make it easier to submit through the program. But at the end of the day, once I'm satisfied and the plans are good to go and you're ready for approval, you'll just print out that final set of plans, bring a couple sets in here, we'll stamp them up, mark them up, get them all ready to go, and you'll be good to go.
How is that going to work interfacing with Monterey Peninsula Water Management District?
We haven't worked that one out yet, but it shouldn't be too hard being able, once we assign you with that building permit number, to be able to go in and bring them, whether it's a reduced set of plans or whatever you need to be able to comply with what they need. Now, theoretically, they're probably not looking at your structural drawings and those, they're looking at and are concerned with your plumbing fixture counts. So you might be able to take a plumbing sheet in that they can go ahead and review. We still got a few details to work out. Again, we haven't really even tested this yet because we're trying to get the iWorks piece fine-tuned before we even start to beta test. that's a good point, and we'll get those things worked out as we move into actually implementing it. Here first and back there.
Do we need to submit signed plans, like scanned sign, and what type of signature will you accept?
If you submit structural, if the architect, engineer, designer, you're required to have a signature and a seal on it, or if it's a designer who's not a registered architect, they have to have their contact information, and they have to sign the plans. That's in the municipal code. That's in state law for design professionals to stamp and seal them. You can do that. You can have that electronically on the plans. We just need to know that the architect or engineer or designer who did the work is in fact taking responsibility for the work, and then we can go from there.
And how do we get final job and office copies? Do you bring them out and issue to us, or do we need to bring our set and you will verify that they're matching what you just read check?
Yeah, that'll be at the end. We'll have you bring in a set. We'll make sure it matches up, and then we'll be able to issue you your office or our office set and your job copy from there.
It sounds like the new website will be mobile responsive, so we can scan PDFs right on site and send them to you on the fly, like from our devices.
So the new website will be mobile friendly. So I'm not sure if our new link is, but I believe it is as well. So I think it'll all be mobile friendly, and you can do it from an iPad or from the field.
And then from this folder where we're submitting plans and revisions, like when Janelle shows up to the site and you guys in the building department, they'll have access to that same, we're all on the same page.
You'll have access to your Dropbox, but when everything is issued and approved, again, we will need a paper copy. So we'll need, if you end up revising 5 sheets or something, you'll need to print off those 5 revised sheets, bring them in, we'll stamp them for your job copy, and we'll give them to you so you can have a physical copy as well as your digital out in the field. We haven't made the full transition to digital yet, so we're still using the physical field copies. Anything else? All right. Well, the second item that we are going to be doing for electronic submittal is kind of status review of your plans or your permits. This is something that is again facilitated by iWorks. Each contractor and each architect will receive a specific code, and it'll be your contractor code or your designer code, and it's what you can do to kind of check out these plans. Currently, everyone can, not currently, excuse me, when we get our new website up, everyone will be able to check out this web page, insert your permit number, your property owner's last name, or some such other identifying information, and be able to review the permit electronically. So that'll say the status that it's at, the location. It'll hide some details so that because this is open to the public and we want to be sensitive about individuals' information. Yep.
Seeing another angle that might be positive is, can homeowners log in and see that you have an actual permit and sort of stop that whole process?
Homeowners will be able to do the same thing as well, yes. So as I said, you'll be able to search by permit number. So if your permit's number is 18001, and you can have that, and you can take a look at this web page, enter that permit number, and be able to pull it up and look at that information. The property owner will be able to do the same thing, see the same information.
What about, say, neighbors? If someone's concerned about construction, will they be able to look up under some?
They will be able to look it up either by a permit number, because it will be issued if the construction is already going on, and they'll have that building permit card at the front of their property. If they know their neighbor owner's last name, they'll be able to look it up. Again, we'll be censoring some information here to keep.
What about by APN?
APN, yes. You'd also be able to search by that. So then in addition, if you are a contractor and you're looking to schedule inspections, we're going to be doing electronic inspection requests as well through this same web page, and that's what the code you'll get is in reference to. So the code, once we get this all up and running, I'll be distributing those, and so you'll be able to go online, view a permit, and as the contractor assigned to that, if your company is the one to assign to that, you can log in with your contractor code. If you try and log into a project that isn't yours, it won't let you. But it'll let you put in a request for inspection electronically rather than having to call us. Again, it is just a request, and so we'll email you back saying you're approved and on the schedule, or schedule's full, we'll get you on the day after. So that's what we're going to be looking at. And I wanted to give you kind of a brief overview of what we're going to be looking at for the I got it.
Okay.
Oh, it's not extended, so I'm just trying to. There we go.
Just drag, yeah.
All right. So this is kind of the general form that you'll be looking at. So this is going to be very easy. So you'll create an account with your email, your login, whatever you would like to do. And you can either enter your request or view your requests. So this is the template for our building permit application. It asks for all the same information: your owner, the contractor, the valuation, the APN, your description of work. If you're going to be meeting some stormwater requirements, it's all here just for you to fill out. Your state licensing number, your city license number, and this integrates with our system that we use. So you'll have all these different fields to fill out, some drop-down menus to select from, and then an area here to where you can upload files. So this will be how you can submit an online permitting request. Once you have submitted that, again, you can go in and log in and you can view your requests. So here are some samples here, so you can just see some of these have been erased, but this one's pending. So you'll be able to get status updates on that, either pending, approved, issued, and then from there you can view some more information. This will work with our login so that you'll be able to get kind of a complete idea of where your permit's at, be able to keep you updated in more real time along with the property owner if they have any questions. So do y'all have any questions about that?
So instead of raising fees, why don't you guys advertise on there? Sell advertising.
Would be nice.
That's a good idea.
All right. And then the future of IT with Carmel-by-the-Sea. So we are looking, as Dick described, to have kind of this one-stop permitting center on our new website. If you are looking to build a new home, click here. If you're doing an interior remodel, click here. And we want to provide you with all the information that you'll need so that when you're doing either an online submittal or an in-person submittal, you can say, I went through the website, selected everything that I need, and here's everything. In addition to that, we're going to be including all of our relevant SOGs on there. So you can say, if I want to do a new stormwater system, click here, and here's the pertinent information for you to help you fill out your application. We want to make it as easy as possible for this information to be free and transparent.
The city's also working on a GIS system, I understand. Will you eventually combine the two so that you can move between your permitting process and the GIS system? So we can look at property information by your AP number or something like that, or look on the map that you'll find and then call information about that project or that location.
So,
Is that a plan? I know it's not there yet.
We're very early in the GIS process. Ideally, that's where we'll be at some point in the future. I can't tell you when, and but stay tuned. And yes, having the APN and the utility information on our website available for people. I mean, ideally, that's where we want to be.
Sure.
But I wouldn't, hope for it for at least another
No,
year.
the iWork system has a module, or has the capability to be plugged into a GIS system as well.
yes, what we've done, we have an internal one where we've sent them that, and they currently have just our APN on that, but not utilities or, yeah. So this is kind of, it'll be an integrated effort. So we are working on it. In the meantime, what we can do is kind of provide a link to the Monterey County GIS. If you're interested in pulling up an APN, they'll be able to give you the information that Monterey County has, just not specific to us.
Is your plan to eventually get there?
Yes. Any other questions? All right. So we're going to just touch on inspections briefly, what you need. First off, everyone should be, any contractor or anyone who's submitted applications should be familiar with the need for tree protection. In the city, it's kind of a standard that we have tree protection either reviewed and determined not necessary or to be installed before you start work. In addition to the tree protection, we're going to have these stormwater inspections that Agnes will be conducting, and she can speak more to.
Yeah, that's kind of a new requirement. If you're gonna do site disturbance that triggers the stormwater requirements, we'll do a pre-construction inspection, go through a short checklist of sort of the things to keep an eye on, when you're doing construction, a reminder that construction BMPs in the city are, active all year, but also in the winter, we do weekly inspections. So we'll go over that at the pre-construction, making sure that the contractor's aware of all these requirements and keeps their site clean and not leaching any sediment during the winter, so.
And for an example for you, good versus bad.
Yeah, so this is just an example of, you can say you have BMPs on site and still they will do nothing. That would be the upper left-hand corner. We definitely, we will look at your BMPs and we want to make sure that everything is installed properly in addition to just being there.
Has the fee schedule for that been adjusted yet? I know there was talk about including fees for all projects instead of just ones that were issued between October 15 and April 15.
Currently, it's still our the deposit for the October time period, the winter time period. It's I think $774 deposit that is refundable depending on the number of inspections you get and the time that your permit gets issued. But I don't believe anything else has been implemented yet.
That's because we have those weekly inspections in the winter.
Well, I understand that, and I understand the state requirement, but it was previously, if it was like, if I pull the permit on October 14th, I don't have to pay the deposit, and I can actually, in previous staff, it was, well, we're not required because your permit was issued before April 15th. Your stormwater inspections actually aren't required, and it's a loophole. And so I was wondering if that had been closed.
Not yet, but it's being worked on.
Thanks for pointing it out.
Even more actively now, yeah.
So I think, first of all, I just wanted to clarify the stormwater thing is our stormwater season starts October 1st and goes to May 1st. Yeah, we're special. We're different from the rest of the state. So first of all, I just want to thank everybody for attending today's presentation. I think the attendance for our workshop last week and today is reflective of the caliber of building professionals that we have here in town. And it really kind of helps my job. I have a remarkable number of inspections daily, especially in the wintertime with the winter storm inspections. So I appreciate the professionalism of all the contractors being ready when they schedule their inspections and having all the required paperwork. So again, thank you all for coming today, and that's my part. The inspection checklist are also included on the provided CDs that you guys are picking up today. Thank you.
All right. The last thing we're going to touch on, as Dick touched on earlier, is your certificate of occupancy. Keeping two separate permits, keeping a separate permit for each structure on the property allows us a certain amount of flexibility with your COs. It'll help you get the property owner moved back in quicker.
Hey, Sullivan, before you speak about that, can you just touch on the 811 dig requirements real briefly?
So 811 is a free service provided by PG&E. It is the service that goes to a specific site and does underground mapping to make sure that in the course of your excavation in your project that you will not hit any underground utilities. In Carmel specifically, our utilities are buried very close to the surface, so it is a standard requirement that for each project that has any sort of excavation, whether you are hand digging or not, you get an 811 number. Yeah, it is also the law.
I was just been listening to the PG&E commercials. Is it just PG&E? Because it used to be 611 was the underground utilities number. Now it's 811 and it goes to PG&E, but that doesn't tell you about sewer, water, phone, anything but PG&E, right?
I believe that to be correct.
811 will also locate any kind of Comcast cable. It goes to all the folks that have underground utilities for them to come out and mark them. I don't know how it interacts with Claude and the sewer pipe in. I'm not sure how it interacts with Cal-Am. Does it go to them also? Okay, so it goes to everybody. So theoretically, when you get that locate, you shouldn't have to worry about a dig-in. But again, that's theoretically. So remember that, you know, a lot of this stuff is infrastructure is put in the ground a long time ago. They're not spot on in their ability to locate where the pipe is. So you do need to use some diligence as you're doing the digging to make sure that you don't accidentally dig into a pipe that wasn't located through the 811. That said, by getting your 811 ticket and having that locate gives you some protection should you have a dig-in. PG&E has been cracking down on cost recovery from dig-ins. And a dig-in on a gas line or power line not only is dangerous for the poor guy operating the equipment or the shovel, but it's also going to be very expensive to repair. And PG&E is going to charge you for the cost of that, and in some cases, if you haven't called 811, there's penalties for it. So it's pretty simple to make a phone call to 811 a couple days before you start to dig, get the locates done, and then hopefully not have to worry much about digging into something, and if you do, having that kind of protection to say, well, you guys did the locate on it, I was digging where you did the locate, so you have a lot more protection against that fee and the fines from PG&E. We've had a couple of dig-ins here in the last couple of months, and so in one case it was rather expensive for the company that did the dig-in. So that's one of the reasons why we require this 811. You need to give us a copy of that ticket when you get your permit issued, and you need to keep that ticket active throughout the course of your project. So that way we know, the companies know, and you know that we're all on the same page with where those pipes and stuff are and where we're going with it.
Right.
One other thing I just wanted to add on certificates of occupancy. In the past, what the city has done has basically, when you finish your project, the inspector has signed off on the checklist for all the inspections and has just written, okay, final inspection. And it kind of morphed, and we had a little section on there that said, oh, when signed by the building inspector, this particular checklist becomes your certificate of occupancy. We are now issuing an actual certificate of occupancy for every project that comes in that gets a permit. It's required by state law, it's required by the codes. We want to make sure that we're really well documenting the fact that a project has been completed, it was inspected, it was all done in accordance with the code at the time. We have situations, and it happens all the time, where someone will want to sell a house, they've lost their permit record card. They have no way of being able to show the work that was done in the building was done in accordance with the code. And when the home inspector goes to do the home inspection for the buyer, they find any number of things that aren't in compliance with today's code. And so they may write those things up. And so what we want to do is to be able to say, yes, these projects were done, here's the certificate of occupancy. I mentioned alternate materials and methods earlier. There's changes in the code. So what's found when someone does a home inspection in 2018 may have been totally legal when the work was done in 2012. But this gives us a way to be able to document that and protect your customers, and to be able to, they can then show, and we can then help them out if they lose the documentation to show that, yes, in fact, that particular work was done and approved by the city. Brian?
Back in the day, COs were not required for remodels because in a lot of cases, people were living in the houses, and that would cause a conflict with having to get a CO because it was already occupied. Has that been changed? Does the law now require a CO even if you're doing a remodel?
We provide them even in remodels for the reason that I just specified. And so, you know, whether somebody's living in it or not, I mean, if they're doing remodeling work, the certificate of occupancy, in essence, is that brass ring that you want at the end of your permitted project. So when whether you're doing a remodel project or brand new construction from the ground up, we're going to issue a certificate of occupancy for it. If you're living in the house while you're doing work, we're not going to come in there and kick you out because your new permitted work doesn't have a certificate of occupancy.
All right, any questions about COs or 811 or anything along those lines? I do want to mention real quick that 811, they take generally 24 to 48 hours, and we just need a copy of the ticket number that they provide to you so that we have evidence that you did get it from them, and that as long as you were doing the excavation, I believe they have a life expectancy of about 3 weeks before you need to renew them. So you'll need to make sure as long as you're doing the excavation that is active. And so you'll just have to call them and say, we're still doing the excavation, can you extend the life of our ticket? And they will do so. So
Do you happen to know the recourse if they don't get to you in the required time frame? Because I had once recently where, called in and they are required by law to get there within 48, 96 hours, whatever it is, and they missed the window. Do I have to just keep calling them? Is there somebody that can put heat on them if they don't?
I'm not aware of any recourse. Dick, are you?
I'm not aware either. Making another call to them certainly is a good idea. If it becomes, a repetitive thing, you can certainly let us know, and we'll try to lean on them to get a little more response out of them. But there's only so much we can even do. It's an independent organization that does it.
They answer the PUC?
I believe they do.
Okay.
And so I'll look into that for you.
Just so you know, if you guys do not get that response within the 72 hours, I've had that a couple years ago, please send them an email and copy me as the mayor, because I will personally put the heat on them, because they put the heat on all of us for 811. It's so important. I hope Sullivan, stresses this. Please call 811, get the thing marked, and get it extended, because I cannot get you out of fines of $4,000, $5,000, $6,000. There's no way, and this, as Dick has just stated, has happened in the last few months. PG&E is not cutting any deals, and they will charge you the full boat. And the city has to put a red tag on that house and stop your project. And so our staff knows if you're out working without an 811 tag, they will be putting a red tag on your project. So it's very important that we all take this serious, because we've had too many issues, and I don't want to have another explosion in the city of Carmel. And PG&E is relentless. So please, if they don't come out in 72 hours, please send an email to Dick or to Sully, and I'll give them the name who they contact, and we'll make sure that somebody comes out immediately and gets it done for you guys.
Thank you.
All right.
So is 811 primarily for public space though? Because I know they don't go all the way into properties sometimes. They stop at a point, and I've had a job where PG&E's high pressure gas line was 6 inches underground. A landscaper jumped on a shovel, and it was spraying 50 feet in the air. But so just for clarity, the requirement is it's a public roadway, right? So everything is done.
No, it should be on the site where you're doing construction.
And all the way to the meter and to the
If you're going to be doing work in a spot that they have not done a location service on, call them back. Say, because you need to have every spot where you're going to be working located.
So there's some discrepancies we talked with 811 about.
And I'll get in contact with them and see how we can remedy that.
Especially in that scenario where you're dealing with a high pressure gas line underneath there, nobody wants to dig in on that.
Yeah, and it's between the property and the house can be a long way, but the meter can be way down. And they don't locate all the way to the meter.
Yeah, and I'll get in contact with them and see what we can do about that. All right. Any other questions? So this wraps up our presentation. So I want to thank you all for taking part of this, taking the time out of your day to come down and learn a little bit about our process. So included here on this slide and at the end of the PowerPoint presentation that you have printed out is all the staff contacts for our department. So feel free to contact us if you have any questions, any needs, any comments about anything that you may have. So one last time, any questions?
One thing I want to add before you leave, and we've talked about all these forms and checklists and other things that are available online and on the disc, and also on the disc are some job aids that I've created that have, again, some standard details on how to do things. So there's job aids on how to build stairs, how to build, what the railing requirements are, egress windows, kind of a weird broad arrangement of, various job aids. I continue to create those. So what's on your disk right now will be added to over time. It'll be on our website. So when you go in there, there'll be a link that you can click to go and see those job aids. I recommend take a look on the website once in a while, see what's new on there, because again, those details that are in those job aids are just right to be cut and pasted into a set of plans so that it makes everybody's job easier. Not that I'm trying to take work away from designers, but you know, this is some standard prescriptive kind of stuff.
Do you do those in AutoCAD, or can we get them in AutoCAD?
I do them in TurboCAD, which is compatible with most CAD programs. Yeah, well, they're TCW files, but they can be converted, I believe, into DWGs.
James first.
I understand the benefit of getting a HERS representative to a new home construction earlier in the construction as opposed to at the end. I'm just curious what your guys' thoughts are as we're approaching 2020 and net zero, that whole movement, and how it relates to all this. And building science.
Wow. 2020, we're just trying to get caught up with 2018.
Actually, with about 2010.
You can put a news blog on the website so the information comes to us as these updates arrive.
And you know, we put as much information on the website as possible, and you know, that kind of information as I get it, we will definitely put it up on the website because we want everybody to have access to information like that, and information's power. So we're going to do what we can do to try to provide that information to you. In a lot of cases, like the HERS forms and the rest of that, when those things are done, a link is sent to the energy folks at the state, and that's how it's registered. So there's a certain amount of state law requirements that revolve around all the energy stuff. But as much as we can, we're going to try to follow the same process of making things easier and electronically available to be able to move things forward. So as we get closer to 2020 and the state gets spooled up on that, we'll try to provide that information to you so that we're all ready for it.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to be clear, walking in with a sketch on a brown paper bag with a case of whiskey for the inspector is no longer acceptable.
No longer allowed.
That we can say in public. Yes, sir.
You know, one of the things that we run into all the time with planning, building inspection, everything is there's always a cycle of hot topics. There's always like either this has been missed a lot lately, or this is the new stuff that's coming down. You know, have you guys thought about doing maybe a quarterly or a semi-annual post where you just go, okay, in planning, here's the new hot topics. Here's a list of things that everybody's missing right now. Here's the things that are upcoming we're going to be cracking down on, or here's the things that you should be aware of that are new.
On our new website, we're going to be continually updating it, probably bi-weekly, with some sort of information. So there will always be information pushed out. We will consider that as a topic if we've run into a string of people. Hey, we've got 10 people that are all missing this, and we'll put some information out there saying, don't forget. Here's the item. Make sure you have this with you when you're coming and submit.
Or, city council clarified this, and now this is going to be the way forward. Everybody should be aware of it.
We'll be putting updated SOGs, policies, procedures, everything out on this new website. So you'll have all the information as we do.
And as we go along, if we create some new, remarkably cool SOG or job aid, or come up with some really great information, as you say, we'll put that up on the website. So when you go to the building division, hey, look, this is something new, so you better, take a look at that. So we'll have that information on there. The website's actually going to be pretty well formatted so that you can get to the building safety division page within a couple of clicks. So it'll be fairly easy, unlike the one that we have now where everything's just kind of hidden on there. This will be right up front. It should be really easy for you to get that information. And again, I really encourage you to go to that website periodically and check to see what's on it, because there may be information that solves your problems.
Any chance of sending email blasts to all the registered designers and contractors when there's updates?
Yeah, I've had that thought recently, almost like a newsletter, or just send it out to an email group, and just to notify you of recent changes to our process, to the code, like you're saying, some of the issues we've identified, reoccurring issues.
So
yes, we would like to do that, and I think that's in the same vein of all the other things that we're doing.
yeah, a couple things is the new website will have integration with MailChimp, so we'll be able to send out email blasts when we get that worked up. And also, we will be the site administrators of the building and planning page. So if there's something, there's a suggestion you want to say, once it goes live, you say, hey, having this available or more easily recognizable would be great for us and the people that I work with. You can tell us, and we will be, we're looking to make that information as available as possible.
Put Lorraine County on the email list.
So they can see what they're doing wrong.
We'll consider it. Chris, did you have a question? Any other questions? All right.
Yeah, I also want to thank everyone. I want to thank Dick and Sullivan for doing such a great job on the presentation. And I know it was a lot of information. It was a long meeting. And like I said, the staff here is always very accessible. We'll be happy to walk you through the process, explain it to you. I'm sure it's probably a little hard to capture everything that we discussed. Hopefully you got some of it though, but we are available to explain it further. Yeah, so thank you.
Thank you. And just in case you really dug this presentation today, it'll be available on YouTube or video that'll be attached to the website too. So you'll be able to revisit this at will whenever you'd like.
Thank you.